Rugged Wear, in association with Travel and Things, proudly presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and today my guest is a clinical psychologist. Her name is Ruth Ancer, and we'll be looking at a series that focuses on COVID-related depression. Ruth, good morning. Welcome to you.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Let's set the scene for the series. We're going to be focusing on what the pandemic has done to our mental health, because everybody's so focused on the physical attributes of COVID that I think we've all forgotten that it has affected us, whether we know it or not, mentally.
Yes, it's had a dire impact on our mental health. In fact, research has been done over the past 2 years, and levels of depression they found has tripled. All the reasons that people struggled before are still there, but they're compounded by everything that the pandemic and the consequences of the pandemic has brought. So we, from anecdotal evidence, but also from research, we have seen an incredible increase in anxiety, in depression, and in people struggling with loss and adjustments, and also losing out on parts of normal developmental cycles that they would have experienced had we not had a worldwide pandemic. So the damage psychologically has probably affected more people than the damage physically.
Mm. And it's also not just, everybody said, oh, the children, because they can't go to school, they can't have the association with their friends. But the parents out there who have to deal with those children are double, have gone through a double blow, because they have to deal with their own anxiety while not showing that to the children, and dealing with the children's anxiety at the same time.
Absolutely. And parents had to very quickly become caretakers and teachers, as well as counselors, because their children's lives were so quickly changed. And most of us are equipped to even be parents in normal times.
Yeah.
So once you exacerbate that with added functions and responsibilities, it was so easy just for us all to feel like we're completely failing our children. And I think it's been very difficult for parents to hide the anxiety and stress from children. It's difficult at best of times, but when your life has suddenly changed and there are suddenly economic pressures, isolation, people you love getting sick or you getting sick, as well as then dealing with such changed lives, I think it's been really rough for parents to manage their own feelings and then manage that of their children, and to compensate for all that their children have missed out on, which I don't think we can compensate. We have to acknowledge and then manage that.
I think if we look back to March 2020, none of us thought it was going to last this long. And I think in the beginning, many of us went, hey, it was 21 days lockdown. We'll have a holiday. We'll stay at home. We'll catch up on all those things that we needed to catch up. We'll reform our relationships with our spouses and our children. Little did we know that here we are sitting, over 2 years later, almost 2 years later, and we're roughly in the same position when it comes to mental health, certainly.
Yes, I remember saying quite confidently at the time, the only thing we know is that we don't know. But I don't even think I realized when I was saying it how much we didn't know. My children still laugh at me that they had said something about, do you think we'll be back at school, everything will be okay by June, July? And I said, yes. Why not? That's so long away, that's so far away. And they often refer to that. And I say, well, it just shows us how ignorant we were,
yeah,
and how unprepared we were. And our lives, look, it's different because we now have a sense of what we're dealing with. We have vaccinations, which takes away a whole level of fear, because before the vaccinations, it was so frightening that we could get it, or our loved ones could get COVID, and there was so little that could be done, you know, in terms of treatment. So there's a lot more research. We've got amazing vaccinations considering the time that has passed. But I think what's really hard is that we've had to adapt to the idea that actually this is something we might live with for decades.
Yeah.
You know, in various ways, and we will adjust, and we are adjusting. But this is something that we couldn't have imagined 2.5 years ago, that our lives would be permanently changed, and globally, that the changes are global and not just affecting us in one small area. So yes, it has been exceptionally, you know, mind-blowing, the kind of way that the world has changed so dramatically in such a short time.
Now, in the series that I'm going to be doing with you, and thank you so much for agreeing to this, are things like what signs can parents look out for with their children when it comes to their mental health? How can friends be supportive of each other? A response to grief, especially those who have suffered loss during the early days of COVID, and when we're unable to be with loved ones who then died. Is attending a virtual funeral like the real deal, or is that a whole different mindset? How COVID can induce depression, even if you weren't depressive before. Does COVID make you become unfunctional? I know that I personally wake up every morning and go, what day is this? I still have difficulty with the days. I have to concentrate. A changed world, and what adjustments have we had? Ways to cope with difficult feelings, because I should imagine there's more tendencies to suicide, to family side, when you decide that, you know, the easiest way is just to take everybody out, and helping with our children when we are stressed and traumatized ourselves. So those are just some of the areas that we're going to be looking at over the series, and who knows, maybe even your hound will pop up with a question or two, or a suggestion or two. I'm chatting with Ruth Ancer, who's a clinical psychologist. Follow me and her as we look into these aspects over the series. Ruth, thank you for joining me for this pilot, and I look forward to the rest of the series with you.
Thank you.